Well, good morning, everybody. And it is indeed a pleasure to be here with the panel. The panel consists of people uh, who bring youthfulness, experience, wisdom, and leadership. And as for me, it's a new experience to me for the reason in the last 30 years, I have never been a moderator, I have been only sitting over there. And when Raveen called me up and said, Sir, we want to do I said, I will do the moderation because today is a Children's Day. It helps me to reverse my age, right? And if you look at the the document of UNESCO in 2000, what should be the direction of education for the 21st century? They talked about 4 pillars of learning. Learning to know, learning to do, learning to get together, and learning to be. Now we have 4 members here. Aisshwarya, completely on the learning curve and absolutely, I have been amazed with her curiosity for learning. We have Manimekalai. What an experience she has. I know her for the last 30 years, how she has brought in the kind of experience and perception to education. We have Vasanthi, who I know is the most popular resource person across the country, learning to get together. And we have the Commodore, who has been navigating forces and now navigating education. And he is representing an organization which addresses the quality of being. So I have all the 4 pillars of education today on the stage. And the topic that we have is a very interesting topic about social media. Just like it said, war is a necessary evil. Social media has become a necessary evil. I don't know whether I use the terminology right or wrong. But then you cannot, today you cannot discredit social media. You cannot ignore it. You've got to rather live with the media. But then that really raises a number of questions today. And I thought people who are on the field will be able to give some nice and better answers. So let me start my questions. First with Aisshwarya, the youngest member of the group. I think the social media has become an evolutionary necessity. Radio came, radiograms came, television came. The technology has been changing one after the other. Every time, we always celebrate some fear associated with some kind of technology. I even remember a very interesting, the headlines, which was given way back a century before when Newton came with his invention. But the magazine, New York Times called him a fool, and he said the whole culture of America will be distorted because of his inventions over that. And that has been happening with every time the new things come. So I would like to put a question to Aisshwarya. Is social media an evolutionary necessity? Is it a natural process, or is it being promoted more by technocrats and tech people as a commercial viability to expand at the cost of human development? What is your view?
I think social media is definitely, before that, Happy Children's Day to all the educationalists in here. I think we're all children by heart. I am in the field only because it keeps a child in me alive. So thank you for the question, sir. I feel my pure existence here is also because of social media. So I believe social media is a very good evolution, no doubt about it. But because it brings in a process of communication, collaboration, and commitment to a lot of things on an everyday basis where people are judging and watching you every day. And I think that's a platform that it creates for all of us today. So it's definitely a very big evolution, and I think a very advantageous evolution today as of now, because I think we're all humans and we are social beings. So we are always looking at some form of social interaction, and to get physical interaction all the time in terms of people hearing us, in terms of reaching out to collaborations across seas globally, has never been so easily possible if not for social media. So how we use social media is a big topic of discussion. And the only thing that I think we have to understand, and with every evolution comes a lot of responsibility. And here the evolution happened so quickly where not all of us got to understand our responsibility, is how I would like to put it. So I feel when there's something that's adding value to our lives, we should not forget our value as we take value of what it's adding to us. So social media is definitely adding value to all our lives, whether we're sitting on this forum today, whether so many people have registered today and walked into this institution of happiness, whether we're able to understand what the impact of mental health is having in education, it is because of social media awareness. Imagine we had to have conclave like this every day to understand what was happening in the reality of students or reality of institutions. It would be so harder. So it is a great way of communication, but the responsibility and the ownership you take with the usage of social media needs more awareness and needs more direction.
Thank you. But I have another question to you before I proceed further. Do you think that social media is a culture catalyst and it impacts the way people think culturally?
It has become. It shouldn't have become. Our culture should have affected the way we use social media, but social media should not start redefining who we are as a person and how we become a cultural human being. I think that's the big difference, and that's in fact, a mistake that has been happening again and again, but nevertheless, we should correct our mistakes. We should start educating people on conscious use of social media, because I think it's so hard in a world so far with so many continents all around the world. If I have to collaborate and sit down and work with a Cambridge University or Columbia University to know what research is happening. Today we're talking about research from WHO to UNESCO to the Mental Health World Organization. How are we getting this? How are we actually being able to contemplate this and use this data? It's only through social media. And I think social media is a huge form of empowerment and expression to a lot of people where you don't get channelization of that. So I think what we require is more responsible and conscious use of it.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Well, my next question will be to Commodore Harsha. Sir, I read somewhere a beautiful quote by Descartes, who said, "Man is born free, but everywhere he is in chains." Do you think that social media has really changed us? That our intellectual vibrance is being challenged, and we become more of followers than leaders? And how do you think that we can liberate ourselves from the clutches of social media? That's my question.
Thank you very much, Balasubramanian ji. At the outset, good morning to all of you. It's a pleasure being here. Thank you for having me here. Yeah, coming to the question, social media is, right from the inception, it was an area where each one of us like to get involved in. I remember at the inception of social media, I would very gladly get into it and discover the long lost friends and cousins. And those were the good, happy days. But those were the days of infancy. As the social media came into adolescence and adulthood, we got to see the darker side of social media in terms of mental health issues. Mental health issues is something that has been getting into this generation of ours so deeply that we are not able to extricate ourselves out of it. Now, if you go in to see why this is happening, there are a lot of reasons for it. But the first thing, that if you want to get over the effects that the social media has on you, I'm talking about the negative effects, then we must build in a certain amount of resilience to our people, especially the children. You know, the children are the people who get most affected about this. And how do you teach a child to be resilient? It has been a part of our Indian culture all over, but of late we have just moved out of it. So if you want to build in that kind of resilience, we have to build in that little factor of compassion into them. That there are other people who get hurt by your views. There are people who will take your views literally and may take the wrong step. So it has to be built into, compassion has to be built in. Now how do you build compassion? Here again, we have to dip into our ancient wisdom. Our ancient wisdom has got the areas of pranayam, meditation, sudarshan kriya, all these things are there. In our schools, we tell the children to actually practice them. And these will help them to build up the compassion. And once the compassion comes in, there is a certain amount of resilience that will come in, and they will be able to actually perform better on the social media. Like the previous panelist was telling me, that social media is a necessary thing, but its bad usage is what is causing the problems. And how we should curtail the bad usage is what the real question is. And I think that for that, we have to dip into our ancient wisdom and get all these things done.
Thank you, Commodore. Next, I will move to Ms. Manimekalai. She has a lot of experience running institutions for the last 3 decades and a number of institutions. As an administrator, how do you think that social media can be a positive input to an educational environment? And because, you have students in the residential school and all that, therefore you cannot ignore social media as a part of the system. But how do you think it can become a positive force in a school education system?
So wishing all the people who are here for today's session, Happy Children's Day. I know that today there'll be a lot of programs going on in your school, but still you are here to understand what is the real happiness. So I thank QS also for giving me this opportunity to be with a big team. So coming back to the question, I know that every individual who's sitting here, every school, you will be using the social media platform. Maybe in the form of an Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube channels, Twitter, so many things. But before lockdown, let's go before lockdown. How many of us were very active in LinkedIn? How many of us, we thought of putting our schools in Instagram? We wouldn't have thought of it. But after lockdown, everything came into usage. So like if whatever we wanted to do, we started posting that in an Instagram. So we felt that a school to have an Instagram is nothing wrong. See, why we started using an Instagram is, see, when you see students misusing the Instagram, why can't a school be an influencer to teach the children how to be active influencer of an Instagram? Because the more the good post you put, you are teaching values to the children, how you can become an influencer of an Instagram and how you can earn. So that's where we found that most of our children and our parents who had a thought process that Instagram is bad, they came to a positive thought, yes, I can also use an Instagram. And when coming to the platform of LinkedIn, it was a big network when our teachers, when I had to introduce to our teachers how important it is to be inside an LinkedIn, where you get a better connectivity, a knowledge and recognition. So now you are globally known. See, when you are in a small city like Coimbatore, and to say Bangalore is a city with technology. Coimbatore is not a city with technology, where slowly now few software companies are coming. And we are all stuck with few schools and few people whom we come to know. But today when teachers are inside LinkedIn, when our heads are inside LinkedIn, and our alumni are inside LinkedIn, we are in a global connect. So this is where we taught, this is how we taught our children how to use LinkedIn. Because when you say to students, don't use that, they wanted to use it and know, but how to make things transform to a positive way, this was one. And again, when we started using the platform of YouTube, we had so many vibrant people coming to the school. But that same knowledge and idea which has to be shared to other children globally, we thought, why can't we put all our programs as a live link and we started connecting. So like we had lot of followers and we feel so happy. We are able to bring a lot of transformation in various schools because they also started thinking of doing a conclave. See, for example, when this QS program is a live streaming, you will not know people who wanted to attend but who didn't get an opportunity when the hall is full, registrations are full, but still they are able to view from different parts of the world. It's going to be a big carryover of information. So that's where YouTube played a vital role for us. So like this, when we started doing things, we took all the platforms and we showcased to the children how it is going to transform things in a better way than they going and searching wrong sites in the YouTube and getting influenced by wrong ideas. But at the same time, see, we have to see here, we had to teach the children that how you should be able to analyze what is right, what is wrong. Because a Google 5-star, when it comes, they should know that whether the Google reviews are a right review or a wrong review. So these were the platforms. So let's allow the children to understand by the right usage of school. That's how, as a school, so if you see our school, now when they say that you are a branded school, I will say, how am I branded? Because we had been an influencer in our city, where now our children, I have to say, most of our children have become influencers. So now through our channels, we are earning also. So this is how I wanted all schools to get transformed. Let's not get afraid of social media. Social media is still, as and how we had both the speakers to say that the usage plays a vital role. Whether we want it or not. Yes.
Well, now, Dr. Vasanthi, yeah, as a principal and as a resource person, you might have visited a number of schools. If I say that the social media has impacted the emotional well-being of the children and their mental health through impulsivity, aggression at one side. The other side, the parents are happy that the children, even at the age of 6, 7, are able to use media very widely and they are proud of it. How do you think as a school you can respond to this conflicting situation? How do your teachers handle it? How do you handle that?
First of all, warm welcome and good morning to all the participants here. Happy Children's Day to all the children and all of us. And my guru mentor, who has been with my school for over 3 decades or more, made me into the trainer that I am today. So when he says I'm well known as a CBSE trainer across the country, it's thanks to him. He's always been there. And thank you for including me today, sir. So the question that you asked, we were to come to that. There is a slight disorientation also happening, which we need to be aware. The other speakers before me have spoken very clearly about different facets. But as you pointed out, I'm looking at one area where what are we doing in the school with our children? And I recently came across an article which talked about a syndrome of late, which talks about the fear of being missed out or fear of missing out, the FOMO syndrome. There are children who always feel that they need to be part of a group. And that could bring in the use of media, because if I do not use media, I'm not there in the group. If I want to stay away from it, it means I'm isolated. And I don't think anyone loves isolation. And I found this happening a lot in my own school, where I have children who come into the senior secondary specifically for admissions from other schools. So when they come in, there is always this inclusivity factor in terms of not being part of a larger group. That is the first step towards getting into the media. So what do the others do? Where am I? And if I don't fit into that group, how do I fit in? So it doesn't matter whether I get skewed on my preferences, but can I do anything to just be part of that circle? I found it happening in the school. There is also another side to it where it could be children of my own school who've grown with us. They form their own groups. It's happening. And they're very sensitive about allowing others into that so-called group. So we had to break it as teachers. And this can happen very effectively the way I've done it. I do life skills for 11th and 12th specifically. I also counsel them so that these children fit into the bigger picture. And I found that unless we break this circle and allow this group to enter, you're lost. Which means you're not just lost emotionally, it could impact your academics and the rest of it. So I think schools need to be very conscious to have that pulse of observation. What's happening in my classroom all the time to every child out there? And I use this analogy of the Prime Minister with the, or the President if you want to, with security people behind him. I asked teachers, what are those two people doing? Do they laugh along with the Prime Minister at his joke? They don't. Everyone laughs, but their eyes are wandering around looking at what's the danger for the Prime Minister. The same way the teacher has to teach, maybe has to, it's not teaching anymore, it's more of the facilitation, of course. But the eyes of the teacher will have to go around frequently to see who's not feeling all that good, who's not feeling included. So where is this kind of thing happening? Because this is the first step that leads to the media coming in. Right. So we all are part of a group in WhatsApp or other Instagrams or whatever. You're not there because you don't fit in. So then we have to get children to understand that we have to include everyone, the empathy factor, the compassion, as you pointed out, sir. Very important for others to understand, if I don't like isolation, I shouldn't be isolating others. So we are working very hard on it, and it seems to be falling in place.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Aisshwarya, I just wanted to, a very quick reaction to you, because I read some newspaper. I think Australia or some other countries recently, they have banned the use of social media for children up the age of 16 or something. Now, in the Indian context, do you think, is it necessary? Or do you think it's, it is a retrograde step? What do you think?
So I believe that banning social media for a certain age group is very necessary in India.
Okay.
Why I feel so is we come from education and we understand that at KG1, certain subjects have to be taught. At first standard, certain subjects have to be taught. On second standard, certain. Why are we working on curriculum day in and day out as institutions? Because we are trying to understand the psychology, the neurology, as well as the sociology included as a part of the education system, and bringing all together and saying that this is the curriculum that's fit for this age group of children. There's a lot of research data going behind it. What social media is doing at a young age, which I think is a huge problem to the society, which is also a cause of concern to the institution of happiness today, the child is watching or whether the adult is watching. So having a ban of, today, sir, the problem with my schools is I have children walking into the school, they can't sit for half an hour, forget half a day in an LKG class. Before we used to do 1 hour, 2 hours, then go up to like half a day classes for LKG. Why? Because mothers are starting to make the child feed at a 5-month, 6-month, holding the phone. That's the attention span they are used to. Sure. So is the kid getting used to social media, or are we adults getting them used to social media because we don't have time for them, is a question I want to ask.
That's right.
So banning social media at a certain age is something that I advocate for sure. What age it is, to what extent it is something that has to be thoughtful. Again, contradicting my own statement, I don't believe in putting a full blanket ban to social media for children. I feel that's also depriving them of a lot of resources, opportunities, and ideas to explore on. Because today I see children looking at social media and starting to aspire. I say this, sir, saying that today we're not a young India, we're an aspiring India. And the aspirations come from watching people on social media because you're not able to reach them every day. I'm fortunate I'm sitting in a conclave like this, watching educators, watched Guruji talk. But how many of us can do that? Right. Social media allows me that opportunity to do that. And I feel children should get that opportunity to do that as well. So doing a lot of research, understanding if India can come up with a policy of what age group at which the ban has to happen, especially to children where their cognitive skills are not yet developed, where they have to be more physically understanding social relationships before they understand relationships on social media. I think that's the age that we have to look at. And if we can do that, we'll have a balanced education system and a life system.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That leads to me a very interesting question. I have developed a kind of a mental health problem because of social media. Because, once you put, you are on Facebook or LinkedIn, you post something, within about 1 to 2 minutes, you just start looking how many likes have come. And actually, I'm sure if that's for me in late 70s, I can imagine of people in 20s and 30s who are looking for branding, and then you boast of yourself, followership, 20,000, 40,000, 1 lakh, whatnot. I mean, it's totally impacting the mental health of the people, leading to empathy. It's not in the media. Similarly, what happens when a child, in those days, my father used to tell me, I want something, he said, 1 week later, I used to hold on. But now, because media, I put an input and it comes back in a nanosecond, I expect my father to respond to me like that. Media leading to impulsivity and aggression. Now, as a person leading a spiritual center, how do you think that this situation can be handled?
Yes, you rightly put it that the social media is causing a lot of ripples in the wrong direction. Like Puja Gurudev says now, that today's youth is now oscillating between two extremes of emotional spectrum. He or she is either aggressive, or he or she is absolutely in a depressive mode. Now, all this happened because of the various responses that a child receives in the social media. Like you were saying correctly, that if I don't get a like, and I don't have good number of followers, my self-esteem drops. And for God knows why it is dropping. It's their own perception. Everything is between your 2 ears. It's your own understanding about what things are. It is not so in the real world. The virtual world is a creation, and this has got accentuated after the pandemic, where sitting in a room, you think this is all the world belongs, this is all the world is all about. Actually, when you come into the real world, you still go back to those days when you were in pandemic and say, yes, that is the real world, mistaking the real world to be the virtual world. Now, coming to the issue about the spectrum that I was talking about, you have to come to the middle path. You cannot be either depressed or you're aggressive, because both are equally bad. Aggression leads to violence at home and outside in the school premises, and depression leads to suicides. And we are seeing so many suicides happening around. Now, the reason for all this, again, I would put the blame firmly and squarely on the social media, because like she was saying, that it is an unfiltered opening for everybody. I mean, there is no restriction on who should be actually able to access it. So, coming to the solution part of it, I would say that we need to come to the middle path. Like, middle path is what? You have to understand that it is not an insensitive screen that you are looking at. There are people on the other side. They have got emotions. You have to be sensitive to that. And that can only build up if you have some human values put inside you. So it is very essential, at least in the childhood days, that we start talking about human values, how you connect to each other, and how you should be able to perform your whatever emotional requirements on a day-to-day basis. Otherwise, what happens is that you mistake the real world to be the virtual world and the virtual world to be the real world, and you land up into a big mess. Big mess. And I think that's the only way ahead. And there are various means of doing it. At least we being in the school zone, we can only talk about how we can tell the children to do. But what about the so many adults who are outside who are at the same mindset? That's a different ball game altogether, and we can have to talk it some other time.
That takes me, I think I'll take this question to Dr. Vasanthi. See, I have seen a number of schools over there where teachers are actively engaged or using the social media for academic work. There are many schools where the homework is sent across, answers are obtained on the media and then evaluated. And that there are schools where even personal relationships also have been established between parents and others and all that. Do you really think it's wise to use social media for an interaction between teacher and the child? Because it might deprive of the personal interrelationship between the teacher and the learner. How do you think, and in your school environment and others?
The most important thing is if I can pick up threads from the previous conversations and our own experience, of course. It is that, yes, as you pointed out, the personal interaction is very, very important, especially when it deals with the social emotional relationship. You can't be doing it over a phone or sending across a message, because a written message cannot adequately convey feelings. You could interpret it the way you want, misinterpret rather. So our first preference would always be to have a straight one-on-one talk with whoever it could be teacher to teacher, teacher to child. We need to talk it across. And it's not that we are so busy that we cannot find that time for that one-on-one talk. But where is the social media coming in? If there's some communication that needs to be given and it's urgent, including an emotional, social issue, whatever, a very brief message which could convey that there is a need to meet is more than adequate, because if you write the entire case and put it across to the child or parent, there is a lot of response time where, one, they could get into a very defensive mode, or two, a denial mode, or third, worst part is shifting the blame to someone else other than the person who could have been involved. So I would personally subscribe the way we do it, that when we do come across such issues of, especially in the adolescent areas, it's very important that the one-to-one talk is happening. You asked about school-based practices. We have a practice where all our teachers are certified counselors. They've done courses, and the first level intervention happens through that counselor or a mentor under maybe 10 students to a teacher. Then second level would be the qualified school counselor. We have 3 of them in number, depending on which block this issue has happened, and you can take it there. You want to take it beyond, you can always meet the principal. You're free to do that. So the child basically should have recourse to somebody and waiting for a message, because we do not use any kind of media in the school other than the so-called smart boards. Teachers don't carry phones to their staff rooms or classes. They're all placed somewhere else so that there is no distraction absolutely happening in the class. So when that happens, what do you do between 9 to 4 school? You can't be using it. So at that time, this personal intervention is very, very essential. And you can't be postponing it. It's an emotional issue. You need to handle it immediately. After school hours, something does crop up, I think only basic information, so that we get to meet people and talk it across the table. Is where I would look at it.
That's a very, Dr. Meghala, there's a lot of talk about this, what so-called WhatsApp universities today. So much of information coming and students learn, we have everything available on that, this, that. But when you really go into that nearly more than 50% of the information is incorrect, faulty, and that's creating a kind of a negative messaging to the learning community. Now, how would you react to any learning process through these WhatsApp universities, or what do you call social media interventions? Because it's an increasing proposition today.
Yeah, it's a very good question. Because when I got the information about WhatsApp universities, first thing I wanted to analyze whether the teachers are aware of it. Because if the teachers are aware of it, 100%, they will give an information, a first-hand information from the teacher will go to the student. So when it goes to the student will go back home and they will discuss with the parents, what is this WhatsApp university. See, an innocent parent who is not a tech savvy, they will think, oh, there is a university that is also doing through WhatsApp. That's how they will think, because today everything, they think that it's very straightforward. But actually, we have to educate the children the deep fake factor of this WhatsApp university. Because WhatsApp universities are, for example, they can create a friction, whether that's a wrong information or a right information, it spreads very fast. So one way we have to say, the present government brought in a full stop for it, where you cannot share more than 5 individuals. That's a very good fact. And next is, when a WhatsApp information comes, immediately as humans, we try to react emotionally. So, but where we should have a control over ourselves and understand whether that is a real fact that has come to our message. And now today, if you see, WhatsApp is in a great usage. Take it from the uneducated to the educated. So even a farmer, he just observes a WhatsApp and he understand, okay, today this is the climate condition, today we are going to have a rain, or today the heat is going to be too much. They have, but they will not know whether that is a true fact or a wrong fact. So how can we create an awareness is the validity, the authenticity, because now WhatsApp is playing a vital role, equal to Instagram and YouTube. But at the same time, still we have to educate the people not to post their pictures, because AI plays a vital role, where tomorrow AI can become a fake model of oneself and put them into trouble.
Already.
So already it is in usage, but still when it is going to come to WhatsApp, what is the other effect? So the best way is to educate the children about digital literacy, which is very important, because as and how all the other panelists told, how today's children are socially, emotionally being deprived. They have that peer pressure. So if they are in WhatsApp, I should be in WhatsApp. If I have 10 friends in WhatsApp, I should have at least 20 friends in WhatsApp. I should have a class WhatsApp group. Because the wrong example is the parents. Today, every parent wants to have a parent WhatsApp group for networking.
Whether you want it or not, they include you.
It includes. So this
That's
is what is
problem.
all about.
You don't even know who is including you in what group.
Yeah,
you know.
suddenly a parent
That's it.
comes to me and say, ma'am, I'm in this position, but I do not know how my name is inside that group.
That's it. That's
So all these things we have to create an awareness, and we can decide whether we want to be inside the group or we want to come out of the group. And we have to educate this a lot to the children.
Next question, Aisshwarya, I get back to you. Every piece of knowledge or social dynamics has a shelf life, right? Technology has a shelf life, every piece of technology. Similarly, all learning theories have had their shelf life. Do you really think that the social media transactions will also have a shelf life and they will vanish over a period of time?
I don't see the shelf life of social media dying down any soon, sir. But there's a lot of evolution to happen. I want to look at it positively and say today social media is all about addiction and attention span. It should start becoming more sensitized towards, I think, well-being. Social media for me is the biggest platform where you can express yourself and feel empowered. Today, even if there's no audience to listen to me, if I go to my social media, even if I don't have followers, I'm at least getting a motion of expression. I feel that's missing out in institutions, schools, and life today. If we can create more channels where we can express ourselves better to either our peers or our well-wishers or to our family, I think the requirement of social media will automatically reduce and will become much more lesser in emotional transaction and be more business transactions. We really need social media to collaborate and run businesses today, because it gets talent from various places across into one channel. But having social media to actually exert our emotional transaction with people is not the way forward for us. That should have a shelf life that is very little in the way forward and should die soon is what I'm looking at. So I think social media should become a movement of happiness and well-being rather than addiction.
Well said. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm left with only 4 minutes now to wind up. So, two quick questions. Sir, to you, do you think that the social media can become a social wealth for education?
Yes, like we have been talking about it, that it has got the good aspects as well as the bad aspects of it. So it can definitely add value to our education system. And we are seeing it happen. We're seeing it happen because I remember when I was in college, if we had to get an information, I would go and sit in the library, rummage through the books, spend at least 2 hours to get about 2 lines of information. Today it's all available. Just a click, especially if you're working on AI, it gives you the entire list of things what you required. So it is adding value to it. But again, the question is, how do you use this? And that is what is the basic issue. And we have to make sure that we continue to work on this to make sure that we restrict, at least as far as the school is concerned, there are certain aspects to be done. And again, a little bit of involvement of the government will also help in restricting. Because today, there is totally, everybody has got a free hand to do whatever. A 5-year-old can also do what even a 45-year-old can do. I don't think we should do that. There should be some sensitivity, and the government can play, but I will add here also that all the current restrictive the practices that are there in the internet today, everything has got a loophole. Everything can be quashed. But that is where our intelligence should be. If we can do an AI today, our own people can do an AI, I'm sure we can find ways and means of creating a framework where we can restrict a certain age people not entering into the internet.
Thank you. And the last question for the session, I'll put it to Dr. Vasanthi. I strongly believe that most of our teachers have not had adequate knowledge on the operability, impact, and the usage of social media, because there is a huge mismatch between digital natives and the digital immigrants. Teachers are all digital immigrants, and the children are all digital natives. Do you really think, as a part of your training program, you need to have special programs to educate teachers on the social media?
I think I strongly agree that orientation has to happen. I don't look at it as training, but orientation is needed, because teachers need to know how much of this I need for my classrooms. A lot of artificial intelligence has come into classrooms. Teachers don't, it's not the PowerPoint anymore. We've gone beyond that to Canva and other things. So there has to be an orientation and training, without which teachers could get lost. And you have digital natives in front of you, and there you are trying to struggle. There is going to be the gap, not in what you're able to teach the children to reach them. It would be more in terms of an ignorance that we seem to display that could cause a setback in the transaction. There's a mental feeling that this teacher doesn't know what she needs to know, and that is enough to seal the fate of that classroom. So I think what is required for a class is more than enough. We can't match those digital natives for sure. But can we take what is required to go into the class? Things like PowerPoint have become obsolete now. Children just look at it and say, oh, yet another one. So unless there's something different, something impactful, I think teachers cannot really make it to the class. We have to think of various ways by which we do it. And incidentally, when you talked about practices, we have introduced Kaizen into the school, where we tell teachers every month, you present your best practices and let us see what kind of pedagogical structures are happening in your class. And we give awards for that, just to encourage innovation and try and be a little one-up on the kids in front of us. They can't match our pedagogy for sure, sir. Like we can't match their...
Right. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
And I think time is up. That's what we hit the nail on the head by just closing it on the right second. Thank you for very interactive session. And I really hope that all the people over here enjoyed our discussions. There's a lot to do, but the journey is on. Thanks for participating. Thank you, audience.